every time also when we do not write. Okay, so communication happens voluntarily, communication happens involuntarily. When we refer to the involuntary communication, that is only limited communication. Okay, means you can give only just a gesture through your eyes, you can just wave your hand, you can stand and walk in a particular way, which also communicates. You can just give a signal like raise your thumb or wave your fingers or something. You can give a very angry look. You can wear something which is very expensive and people think that okay, you are very rich. So these communication cues are very limited. So involuntary communication level is not of an advanced level. Advanced level communication is the voluntary communication. And many of the academic communications are voluntary communication. For example, journalistic communication, medical communication, then engineering and other professional communication, business communication. So these are very advanced kind of communication which must be differentiated from the general regular communication. In general regular communication, involuntary and voluntary still can be at a lesser level than the professional communications. Professional communications happen at a very advanced level. Advanced level means we have very different, structured and planned way of communicating, because professional communication or business communication always has some purpose, some agenda, some objective, some task to be fulfilled, which involuntary communication probably or general communication probably will not. Because when we communicate with a friend or we are saying hi, we are sitting here and looking at someone, waving our hands, generally, for social relationship, because primarily we communicate with the other living beings, because we are social animals, and because we have to be in the society, or by virtue of our being social animal, we communicate. Okay, so so to make social relationships, we do communicate with others, which is not as advanced, as professional communication is. Professional communication, on the contrary, is narrower than general social communication, because we have to communicate with planning, we have to communicate with objectives, and we have to communicate with a lot of agenda and tasks involved in that. Anyway, so coming to the filters and barriers of communication, anytime when communication is not happening, then it is a filter or it is a barrier. It is a it is a unsuccessful communication. But if it is happening, if these things are taken care of, then communication happens in a successful manner. Okay. Now we have certain principles of communication. Like when we communicate, we follow certain principles, and these principles also, are taken into consideration how we actually perform the task. Now, you as just lay persons, you are all new to the understanding of communication. Now you tell me what should be the guidelines, or what should be our guiding principles, when we communicate in the professional world. Tell me that, just use your common sense. I'm not asking for a perfect or a very correct answer, but I'm just asking you like, what should be the guiding force, or what should be the the guiding principles which should tell us, okay, one should communicate like this. Yes, Sneha, you can speak now.
Ma'am, it should be like to make our objective or to make our agenda clear to the person with whom we are communicating.
The receiver of our messages?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The receiver to the
Absolutely.
receiver.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sneha. Anybody else? Yes, anyone else who thinks that, yeah, Vivek.
Ma'am, the other thing which we need to look into care is that we should not involve so much of difficult words so that our language get too much complicated and what we wanted to convey to the person whom we were speaking with, we are not able to convey that message and we are off track. So we should liberalize our language at least to that extent so the person is able to decipher us out.
Absolutely. So we have to be careful in our code sharing. The code which we are using, we have to be sensitive. We have to be sensitive. We have to be, understand what is the level of the receiver, or how much the receiver actually can receive and how much the receiver can understand. Okay, and I fully agree with you, Vivek, when you say this. Like, I'll give you an example. Yeah, there are other hands. I'm coming to you. Say, for example, now I'm teaching you communication, and because I know a lot, because I am a master of this subject, uh, I might have an overwhelming desire to talk to you or to share with you very difficult theory of communication and other stuff, but which I should not, because I have to understand that my recipients at present, they are all 18, 17-year-old students. They are just from plus two classes, and their exposure to communication studies is very limited. So I should not be using them or using a lot of difficult theoretical inputs with difficult language, because I know you will not be able to understand. So I should be a sensitive communicator to design my communication and the language of the communication so as to make my receiver understand what I am trying to tell. So Vivek, your point is absolutely valid. Yeah. Next. Yeah, Riddhi Akanksha, you have raised your hands. Please tell me.
Ma'am, we
Yes,
should,
ma'am.
Yeah, Riddhi, you speak.
ma'am, we should be careful about our language. If the receiver does not know about our language, then he cannot be can communicate with us.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
And
we
ma'am,
should
but
in
the language.
yes, Akanksha, tell me.
ma'am, in a professional environment, it's very important to be concise about what we are saying, to be to the point, because when we are delivering instructions or we are communicating or debating, we should be clear about what exactly our point is, and it can be simply understood by the other person as well, because we don't
Mm-hmm.
have time to sort out misunderstandings on a professional level if you're trying to get something done.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other principles do you think that to be, need to be paid attention to?
Also, we should abstain from using something disrespectful or something that might offend the receiver.
Absolutely. Very good point made. Yes. We'll come to issues in communication later on. But yes, that is a point.
Hello.
Yes.
In this professional talks, first we should listen the communicator or the speaker carefully, and then amend our
Mm-hmm.
thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be real
Sure.
helpful, and it will also give him, it will be also like giving him some respect.
Yes, so one has to be a sensitive and respectful speaker as well as sensitive and respectful listener also. True. Yeah. So if I ask you what should be the first most important principle of communication, then what would be your answer?
Listen to the other person.
Mm, mm,
To make our
well,
objective clear.
To make our objective clear.
yeah, okay. First principle would be yes, we will certainly come to this point, but uh, don't you think, as a communicator or as a professional communicator, we have to be, aware of the importance of communication? This is the first principle in communication studies. Like one has to be, or the communicator has to be aware of the importance of communication. So very often, people just give it to chance. People assume that communication will happen. People assume that it's a very normal and regular situation. I'm speaking means people have to hear, or I'm speaking means people are able to understand me. So, this is something, or these assumptions are wrong when we are conducting ourselves in communication activities, because communication and its importance must be internalized when we are in a professional scenario. Now, as I told you also a little before, like there are different levels of communication that we indulge ourselves in. So very preliminary, very social, very ordinary, like everyday affair, we communicate, we speak, we do not speak, use paralinguistic expressions to communicate ourselves, sometimes, gestures, postures. But when we come to a proper planned professional scenario, we cannot really be that light, that simple, that ordinary. Say, like when between friends, like you are walking on the corridor, and even also, like for example, like you are on the corridor and your professor pass there on the corridor, and just you nod your head and then maybe give a smile or do a namaste, and then you get going. Okay, you may not even speak good morning, but your gesture is enough. But if it is an interview, business interview, a very serious business interview, on the basis of which you are going to be either selected or rejected, you cannot do that. You have to do something more. You have to be a little sensitive, respectful, properly wish good morning or good evening or namaste, whatever, whichever cultural scenario you are in. And then you have to make the other person feel good that yes, you are sensitive and you are seriously communicating. So it is important that we have to be absolutely clear on what professional scenario or non-professional communication event that we are in, depending on what is your communication design, what is your communication nature. You have to attach importance accordingly. Very serious communication scenario or event, very seriously you are aware of what you are going to do. So be aware of the importance of communication. Communication is importance. You cannot just leave it to chance. You cannot say that okay, this is going to happen, হয়ে যাবে, or hoga, don't, I mean, it's not a big issue. So first principle in communication studies is the recommendation that every communicator, especially professional communicator, has to be completely aware of the importance of communication, because on the basis of that, either you make or you break the game. Okay, say, what should I say, badly written letter, a badly drafted report, a badly drafted research report can spoil the game. Okay, it may not fetch you the desired result. A bad proposal, an insufficient proposal is not going to get you the warm. So, principle number one has to be aware of the importance of communication. Can you give me more examples in this particular principle, or under this principle? Can you give me more examples? Yes, Akanksha.
For example, as you said in an interview, we have to get selected for a leadership role or a management role. Also, we can say that we need to be able to communicate what we have to say. Or
Hmm.
example, we are giving a speech or we are trying to manage a class.
Hmm. Yes, Neha.
Ma'am, even if we suppose we want to share our views somewhere, like writing an editorial or giving general views, in that scenario also how efficiently and how aware we are about the use of our language matters.
Mm-hmm. Is it about language, Neha, or it is also about many more things than the language?
It is about the overall communication.
Mm-hmm. Not about writing.
Yes, ma'am, that also. Writing is also a way of communication.
Hmm. Writing is important, and writing also is a very large part of business communication. Very large part of business communication, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other example?
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
also,
there can also be many kind of misunderstanding during communication because of communication errors in whether it is a written communication or spoken communication.
Hmm. Yes.
also in business letters, like we are ordering something or we want to establish business relationship, in that scenario also it matters. The first principle of communication.
Mhm. Yes, you will find in the professional world there are almost every situation. If you cite any situation, every situation from business activity, you will see that communication is important, and one has to be aware of the seriousness and importance of the exercises. And without that, you will not gain anything. You will not gain any kind of result. So importance is important. You have to be aware of the importance of communication. That is principle number one. Then coming to the second principle, the second most important principle is that communication is a collaborative activity between the sender and the receiver. Okay. So why collaboration, or what is a collaborative activity? What is your understanding of that?
It must involve participation of both sender and receiver. It should not be one-sided.
Yes. It's not the responsibility of only one participant, but it's a responsibility of all the participants involved in any given communication event or exercise. Okay, which means that all the senders, all the receivers are collaborators in this communication activity. So communication is a collaborative activity between the sender and the receiver, which means that collaboration is done for everyone's benefit. All the collaborators benefit. So all collaborators benefit happens only when there is a mutual agreement, there is a cohesive working, there is a coherent working between all concerned. Communication also is the same. Communication is an activity in which all stakeholders must be collaboratively working. Now, a simple example which I can give you right here is I'm teaching you a class, I'm taking a class. Now, I'm speaking to you something, I'm sharing some ideas. Now, when I ask you questions, that is one way of saying that you are also collaborators of this particular class. Now, if you are silent, which that means that this communication is not a collaborative activity between the sender and the receiver. But if you are responding, I am responding, I'm talking, you are listening, you are asking me questions, I'm replying to your queries, then it is a collaborative activity which is going on in regard to this particular classroom. So all communication must happen in this manner. Now, there is one obvious question you can ask, that like when we are writing for communication, we are writing letters, we are writing proposals, we are writing business reports, press releases, then do we have this active collaboration? No, we do not have the active collaboration, but we have passive collaboration, because on the basis of the letters, on the basis of the reports, on the basis of all these, what we are writing, many of the tasks will be performed, many of the action plans will be taken, many of the, what should I say, many of the activities which are proposed in the communication, that will take place. So, both in the writing activity and also speaking activity, communication can happen collaboratively if both the sender and the receiver are interested. Now, I also would ask you for more examples in this category. Yeah, just think and answer to my questions.
Ma'am, like when we are working in a group project or in some sort of project in which we are working in group, in that case, this collaborative activity of the leader and all the team members become important.
Hmm.
Excuse me,
But we
ma'am.
are talking about the communication part. Yes.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, actually, recently you talked about passive communication and active communication. Would you please elaborate that?
There are certain communications which are active, meaning they are happening on, for example, one to one, right now in front of each other. That is more active communication. I am talking to you, you are talking to me, okay? Interpersonal, and it is happening pretty much here. Passive ones are the one in which you communicate, and the documents or voice recordings or television transmissions, they are received by the receiver elsewhere or after a while, and then respond to the communication. That is what is passive communication.
Ma'am, is there any kind of feedback in the passive communication, or just is it a one-way
Yeah,
communication?
yeah. Feedback is possible, because you may write the response to a letter. Okay, you may write feedback on a television program. You may write back on the basis of the report which you have read. So there is a feedback, but there is not an instant feedback as it happen in an interpersonal communication like this.
Okay, ma'am. So it means that it depends on time. If we are communicating at a present time, then it is active communication, or if
Yes,
the feedback
yes.
takes time, then it is
Active
passive.
means it is going on. It is going on actively between you and me. I mean, any sender and receiver.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes, any other example?
Ma'am, Also, like in mass media where we have debates, discussion, interviews, there also the collaborative active communication is necessary in interviews and that debates on news channels and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is also active commun. There are many examples, of active communications. Yes, Vivek.
Ma'am, as far as I think, communication is communication so longer it is collaborative. Say we are having a group of 5 to 6 friends. So till each and every friend is speaking something, it will seem to be a communication. But if only one or two are just keep on saying and saying, it will rather seem to be a spiritual discourse or a piece of advice. So this is how collaboration is important in our day-to-day communication.
Didn't get you, Vivek. What is you were asking me a question?
No, ma'am, I was answering to your question that how collaboration is important in our day-to-day communication.
Yes, yes, of course, of course.
So if there is no collaboration, so that communication will seem to be like spiritual discourse or a piece of advice someone is giving to a group of people.
Yes,
That
absolutely,
no
yes.
longer remain a communication.
Yes, spiritual advice, and we have many spiritual leaders on TV.
Yes, ma'am,
When
we
you
do.
open your TV, you find that there are so many speakers. And I understand these people can speak hours together because they don't have anything to do. Those who are into action cannot speak so much, isn't it? Yeah. So, any other, see, guys, I can be very radical in my statement sometimes, so don't quote me anywhere. Otherwise, Supreme Court will sue me and send me to jail. Okay. So that is one. That's the second principles of communication. That communication is a collaborative activity between the sender and the receiver, which means, in a very simple term, that communication has to be done in a way in which both the sender and the receiver, they mutually benefit from each other, they mutually work together to make the communication effective, and they mutually share experience so that they are pretty much in control of what they are communicating to each other. So in this collaboration, they have to be respectful, they have to be doing a wonderful code sharing, they have to be able to be sensitive to each other, they have to understand what the other person is trying or intend to say. Um they have to be, and also the sender has to be very careful in trying to communicate in a way so that this the receiver is able to understand it completely. To make it collaborative, both the sender and receiver must work very carefully and consciously to remove all the barriers in the process of communication. So when we say it is a collaborative activity, which means it is not the sole responsibility of one of the participants to ensure that the communication is successful. It is the responsibility of each participant to ensure that the communication is successful by making conscious, sincere efforts. Okay, then only communication can be successful. Then only it can be adorable, effective, beautiful. Otherwise, it's going to be nonsensical and nobody gains anything out of it. That is principle number two. Principle number three. Yes, communication must be respectful, to the point, precise, simple, understandable. This is principle number three. So it has to be simple, simple in the sense everybody will have to be in a position to understand each other. So use simple language, use straight approach, use uncomplicated style. Okay, be respectful to each other. Use the language in a very rational and very understandable manner so that people understand each other. Okay, and communication become successful. This is 3. 4. Communication should not be left to chance, but it should be planned accordingly and planned much before then the actual communication takes place. Means you cannot say that, okay, I'm a very good communicator, so let me do it on this stage itself. Means supposing you have an interview, you say that, oh no, I'm very smart, I don't have to prepare for this interview. I will straight go and bang the board and then get the job. It never happens. All serious communications must be well planned. If it is a presentation to an audience, you must prepare it very well. Do a lot of rehearsal. Cut your, in your corners. Tailor your presentation. How much you are going to speak. How many slides you are going to speak. And who are your audience. Okay, all of these things you have to prepare very, very well to make yourself effective. Because if you prepare well, then you know that where are your loopholes, where are your weaknesses, where are your strengths, and accordingly you can design your communication. So never leave communication, especially business communication or professional communication, to chance. Always prepare, prepare, prepare. Plan, plan, plan. Communication should not be left to chance. Be it a presentation, be it a what should I say, a business proposal, be it a press release, be it a television show, be it a conversation with your boss, be it something in the meeting, upcoming business meeting. So whichever or whatever is the nature of your communication, you have to prepare well. Okay. If you do not have much time, prepare less. If you have more time, prepare more, but never go without any kind of planning. This is principle number 4. Principle number 5, your communication must be audience oriented. Okay? It is not that what you know, what you want to communicate, you will communicate. You will communicate what is required of you to communicate, and you will communicate what is the audience want you to communicate. Okay, so an audience research becomes important. So how audience research helps you? Audience research helps you in understanding the background of your audience, understanding the intellectual or the collective intellectual output of your audience, what is the cultural, economic, social background of your audience, what is the citizenship of your audience, what kind of social milieu your audience belongs to. So these things make your communication understandable by the particular group, or make it more effective. Then, if you do not do an audience research, supposing you as an engineer or you as a computer scientist, you will be asked to develop certain program for rural India or some, villages in the country, and you are doing a lot of work for them. You want to plan something and you're supposed to talk to them. Now you will design your communication, either it is your PPT or your speeches or your dialogue with them or your interaction with them. So you will prepare yourself keeping in view the audience's ability to understand what you are saying. Otherwise, your audience is not going to understand what you are speaking. Now, for example, if I give you references to theories like post-colonial theory, global south theory, which are the English literature and language teaching or English literature studies we read. So if I start throwing all these theories to you without any kind of preamble, without any kind of introduction, without any kind of explanation, then you are not going to understand much of what I'm saying. And resultantly, what will happen that you will lose interest, the communication will not be effective, okay, and we will just be kind of tolerating each other, enduring each other, not really gaining out of the communication event in any manner or in any way, okay. So, important principle is that your communication should be purposeful and audience oriented. Now, what is purposeful? Communication must have a purpose, must have an objective. It should have a task to be performed. Now, there are two different kinds of communications which happen in the business world. One is the indirect action plan, the other one is a direct action plan. So, direct action plan communications are proposals, reports, letters, emails, memos, and these things, okay? And indirect ones also can be letters, memos, like reports, but then these are the kind of documents which does not or do not require immediate action plan. For example, when you write a thank you letter to your collaborating company, you are not raising any immediate issue to be fulfilled or immediate issue to be or immediate action plan to be. Give me just a moment, guys, just a second. Okay, so the indirect action plans, for example, you write a thank you letter to one of your collaborating company. Now, this is not an immediate raising of any action plan, but then it helps in the future, to keep good humor or keep good relationship with them, so that in the future again you are going to do transactions with them, you're going to be your business partner. So this is an passive action, immediate action plan, in contrast to the one which is raising immediate requirement. For example, you are writing a letter of request to the collaborating company to send maybe 5 workforce to your office on certain demands or on certain work, your whatever is crashing, and you want these experts from the other company to send them people instantly, maybe tomorrow or something, and your letter has to be written in such a manner that it raises the alarm to the company. Okay, the company will say, okay, we are sending it within 24 hours. So so while we do business communication, we have to be very sensitive and aware of the level of communication, the urgency of communication, the how the audience is going to react, those kind of communication. So how beautiful the communication is, how good humor the communication is. So it all depends on how good you are at communication, and then how to speak well, how to keep people in the right spirit, in the right sensibility, how powerful your letters are, how powerful your business reports and your business proposals are. So these all, can either, as I said, it can bring you or fetch you good things, or it can, make you lose many good things in the market. Eventually, at the end of the day, what are the important objectives of any business house? The important objectives of any business house is to make profit, goes without saying. Even if it is an educational institutions, also we are working towards profit. So profit, I do not mean to say it is only monetary profit. Profit can be intellectual profit. I mean, we are working because we want to have good name and fame, right? IITs are working, to have good fame and good name and marketability competitions and all of this. So every organization wants some or the other kind of profit. That is one important objective of any organization. Another organization is to run a good name, okay? Then to stay in the competition and to have a good PR in the market. So these are 3-4 objectives for which every organization works. Now, good communication helps in achieving all of these, or good communication helps in gaining all of these or one of these ulterior, objectives of any business house or any business organization. So the principles which we work in communication studies is to ensure that communication follows these guidelines or these principles and make it a little effective. So another like objective, as I say, the communication must be audience oriented and purposeful. Certainly it should be well designed, it should be planned, it should use the latest technology. Communication should use the latest technology. That is important. This is also one more principles of communication. Okay, and there are also other principles, like we in the course of our discussion we will discuss them. So with this, I will end the class, and in the next class, we will talk about the issues in communication, like registers, dialects, home language influence and interference, bias-free communication, verbal and non-verbal communication. And you please remind me to share with you my class, class, what should I say, the content of each of the chapters, and so each of the topic. I have quite a lot of, in fact, I can share it from my book and then I'll let you know. Okay, I'll share my book chapters with you. So now let me ask you if there is a query, please go ahead and ask me now. And then after that, I'll take your roll number, roll call. Any question, please go ahead and ask me. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Abhishek? Abhishek Gupta?
Yes, ma'am.
Abhishek Upadhyay?
Present, ma'am.
Adiras Sahu? Aditya Vikram Jena?
Present, ma'am.
Akanksha Naik?
Present, ma'am.
Aman Kumar Gupta?
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Aman Kumar Gupta?
Present, ma'am.
Anshuman Padhi? अंशुमान पाढ़ी?
मैम माइक नहीं चल रहा था.
Sorry? No, he's not
Ma'am?
here. Yes?
Sir, 3 roll number present.
Yeah. So Anshuman Padhi is not present. Arnab Mahanti?
Present, ma'am.
Astha?
Present, ma'am.
Aksa Gemini?
Present, ma'am.
Ayush?
Yes, ma'am.
Karthik?
Present, ma'am.
Bhavani Shankar?
Present, ma'am.
Sai Rohan Reddy?
Present, ma'am.
Satej,
Present, ma'am.
Arun Kumar,
Present, ma'am. Present, ma'am.
Cosmos Tirki,
Present, ma'am.
Rishikesh Ramesh,
Present, ma'am.
Harsh Mishra,
Present, ma'am.
Yogesh Lohana,
Present, ma'am.
Jami Vishal, Jyotideep Acharji,
Present, ma'am.
Upendra,
Present, ma'am.
Raja Naik, Kirti Padhi,
Present, ma'am.
Rajana is present.
Pratyush Ajay,
Present, ma'am.
Rajana is present.
Mayan Pradhan,
Present, ma'am.
Meenakshi Sahu,
Present, ma'am.
Monalisa Panda,
Yes, ma'am.
Mridul Tripathi,
Present, ma'am.
Naisargik Subudhi,
Present, ma'am.
Naisargika, okay. Nitin,
Present, ma'am.
Varshit Reddy,
Present, ma'am.
Pritam Reddy,
Present, ma'am.
Pavan Kumar,
Present, ma'am.
Pavan Kumar,
Present, ma'am. Pawan Kumar.
Pravanjan Mishra,
Present, ma'am.
Pratik Tripathi,
Present, ma'am.
Priyadarshan Dehuri,
Present, ma'am.
Prayas Chandra Ta,
Present, ma'am.
Priyambada,
Present, ma'am.
Ravi Kumar, Ravi Sohesh,
Present, ma'am.
Ravi Kumar.
Ma'am, he may got have disconnected.
He is not there.
He would have got disconnected, ma'am, as he hails from village, I think.
Acha, okay. But he was not in the class. I didn't see his roll number. Anyway, so Ravi Sovesh,
Present, ma'am.
Riddhi Agarwal,
Present, ma'am.
Rituparna Senapati,
Present, ma'am.
Rohan Mohanty,
Present, ma'am.
okay. Roshan Das,
Present, ma'am.
Rudradev Pradhan,
Present, ma'am.
Rudransh Agarwal,
Present, ma'am.
Samir Ranjan Sahu, Tangdil Biswal,
Present, ma'am.
Sanjeev
Present, ma'am.
Sethi,
Present,
Saroj
ma'am.
Maji, Saroj Maji,
Present, ma'am.
yeah. Satya Pareda,
Present, ma'am.
Sivarshi Singh,
Present, ma'am.
Sobhana Pareda,
Present, ma'am.
Shruti Swarupa Dhar, Sneha Mandal,
Present, ma'am.
Somesh Mahanti,
Present, ma'am.
Sudhanshu Kumar,
Present, ma'am.
Suman Priti Gilua,
Present, ma'am.
Aman Sharma,
Present, ma'am.
Anuj Baloria,
Present, ma'am.
Rudraksh Gupta, Rudraksh Gupta, Sahil,
Present, ma'am.
Soyam Siddharth Naik, Soyam Siddharth, okay. Tanmay Barman, Tanmay Varman. Tanmay.
Ma'am, ID 65 Swamsiddharth Naik present. Ma'am, my mic was not working.
Yeah, Tanmay is absent. Jahnavi.
Ma'am, roll number 6.
Present, ma'am.
Yeah. Ujjwal.
Present, ma'am.
Vivek.
Present, ma'am.
Yogesh.
Present, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, rule number
Yes.
24, ma'am. Rule number 24,
Yes,
ma'am.
it's Rajan.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Present, ma'am.
Rajan.
Ma'am, roll
Yes,
number
yes,
6,
I
ma'am.
have.
Present, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, Rudraksh Gupta is messaging on the
Yeah.
chat.
Chat, yeah.
Ma'am,
Yes, yes, I got
roll number
this.
66 present, ma'am.
63, yes, Rudra, I can get your presence. Tanmay?
I'm present, ma'am.
Tanmay, I didn't hear you. You're sleeping, I think.
Yes, ma'am. I am 66 in the class, ma'am. Please attend my roll number.
You're not sleeping? Okay, so thank you all very much for joining the class. I'll meet you in the next class, which is a lab on probably Tuesday or Friday. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. And leave the class. I'm leaving the meeting. Thank you.